Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Well, welcome everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. A big shout out and thank you to my producer today, Jessica, having some technical issues. And as always, you've come through for me. So thank you, Jessica.
You bet. Isn't that the name of the game, though? We have to go with the flow and figure things out in real time in life and in shows.
And you have to remain confident, which is what today's episode is all about, is sometimes, and I hate this saying, but I love it too, fake it till you make it. And right now, I was having a little bit of a panic attack, not so confident coming into the show since my computer just decided to die on me. But you have different things that you can put in place. And that's what my guest today and I are going to talk about, Angèle Henry. And I am so grateful that she's on the show today. I had the privilege of being on stage with her in Paris last month, just about this time. We were in Paris at a women's conference, and I loved her presentation so much, I just had to have her on the show. So before I get into introductions, I wanted to ask you, Jessica, what is self-confidence to you? Oh
boy. Okay. Loaded question.
I know. I like to put you on the spot.
But it's good. I'm gonna relate it for me for that self-belief, because it's believing in myself, and I'm gonna relate that back to the NCAA Women's Championship game that I watched yesterday. Because even though Iowa didn't win, those women had to go out being down by 21 points and still give it their all and believe that they could come back and believe that they could win. And that's a confidence in themselves. And I relate my confidence to that too, is believing.
Yes. And I love that, because once you've developed self-confidence and you become more self-aware, you know what you want, and then you can boldly go after it. And somebody with self-confidence becomes really courageous as they journey through life. And that's what's important, because it helps us start tasks, it helps us finish tasks despite our challenges, like today. Getting a little late on the show because we had challenges, but meaning that when we value ourselves, we have a great way of enhancing our self-confidence. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest, and then we're going to jump right into the conversation. So Angèle Henry is a CEO and pioneer behind Shine Beautifully, which I just love that name, because we should all shine beautifully no matter when and where we are. It's a business which she created to empower and encourage women to girl just shine through every situation, whether it's good or bad. And Angèle believes that a woman must have self-confidence, self-love, and believe she is beautiful despite the tough life experiences. And that to me is so, so important. And I think it's so beautiful that she's helping people do that. Angèle, I'm going to let you explain to us, and I want to welcome you to the show, and I want you to explain to us how you got started in this. What was your calling to get through to this point in your life?
Wow, that's a really powerful question in itself, honestly. I must also say a super big thank you for this opportunity. It's such an honor and a privilege, Erica, to join you on today. The question that you've asked is basically how I got here. Starting off, this was something that the Lord had deposited in my spirit. There was a time in my life where I didn't have my self-confidence up. Like it was not 100, because there were different things in different seasons of my life that I've literally struggled with, and it literally contributed to me not having the self-confidence that I should have as a young woman. And so because of that, I've made whether it was decisions that were not 100% the best. And that's what, when you are lacking self-confidence, can cause you to make certain decisions that you may look back and be like, did I do that? But you really did. And it's because at some point in time in your journey, you would have suffered that insecurity, because that's what low self-confidence is, not feeling worthy of a thing, or you want to be accepted here, but you're not, right? You're rejected over there. And so those things add up and cause me to not see myself the way the Word of God says that I should see myself, or not see myself as the woman or the young woman that the Word of God says that I am. And so it was just literally one day I was sitting, and I know at that time I was going through some things that I really didn't like as it pertains to my life, and just like things that surrounded me. And I said, God, you have to direct me and lead me through this. And the only thing that I had to lean on was the Word of God. And it was in that time that the Lord literally deposited shine beautifully into my spirit and said, despite of what you're experiencing right now, you're going to shine. You're going to shine, and not just shine, but beautifully, because it's easy to put yourself down when you're going through something and not lift yourself up. But every time I remember that there's a Word of God that I can lean on to believe in and say, hey, I am special. I am one of God's prized possession. Let me mull in that some more. Let me understand and believe in that some more. And then that begins to let me live and enjoy life in the present and not put myself down. So to answer that question, that is how Shine Beautifully came about, because I've seen so many different women that I've come into contact with in different spheres kind of put themselves down just because of what they're going through. And that's just not a good place. And also, when you're winning in life, you are shining. And so you have to celebrate those wins as well as celebrate those valley moments, even though the valley moment can be difficult. So to you, that is how I got here.
Wonderful. So we're talking about self-confidence today. And so first, what is self-confidence? And then let's get into the discussion of why is it so important?
Of course. So self-confidence, it involves having self-respect and the courage to tell the truth about yourself. Sometimes it's easy to tell people who I am, but I'm really not that person, and it's not the truth about you. It's like almost kind of living a lie, right? Because you believe if I do this thing, then they're going to perceive me this way. I want them to perceive me this way. But it's really having the courage to tell people the truth, like, hey, this is who I am. This is my belief. It's also being able to act upon your belief. This is what I believe in, and this is what I'm going to stand by. This is what I'm going to live by. I'm not going to let anyone shift me out of it. That is having self-confidence. It's also having that sense of a worthy feeling about yourself. It's a positive feeling about yourself. And so regardless of what kind of mistake you may have made in life in the past, you won't put yourself down or give up on yourself, okay? You'll use those as tools to help you to get better. They say experience is the best teacher sometimes. So whatever you've experienced in the past or whatever mistakes you've made in the past, you don't have to put yourself down. You can pick yourself up and value yourself and move right on again.
Well, and I think that what you said in there is really important, because self-confidence, right? It's I don't want to say a concept, but it starts with your values. It starts with knowing who you are, knowing what you believe in, and then being unstoppable from there.
Yes.
And I think that is, and that's why we need to sit with ourselves. We have to have that self-awareness. We have to know what we stand for, and then be able and be confident enough to then express that and do the boundary management that we've talked about too, is, making sure that these are my values, these are my core beliefs, and they're going to lead me in my life. And I am confident in that. And I'm self-aware. I know what I want, what I don't want. And then I'm going to go after all that.
Of course. Yes. I love it.
So one of the things that I also wanted to talk about is there are different things that I don't want to say hinder us, but there are a lot of different things in our lives that might contribute to our self-confidence, our internal and external factors. So what would some of those internal and external factors be that affect our self-confidence?
Of course, that is a really great question, Erica. I really believe that they are some internal things that, we must be aware of and their existence. All right. So for instance, believing in your heart that you are loved by Christ. I believe like that's the foundation of your self-confidence, knowing what the word of God says about you. That thing has to be rooted on the inside of you. Unless it is on the inside of you, someone can come from wherever they come from that is not a positive or a good influence and can kind of shift you off your feet in the wrong direction. But unless you know what the word of God say about you and believe that in your heart, I believe you're on your way, to living a life of having a great self-confidence. All right. You also have to believe that you are approved by God. A lot of times people look in others for approval. But the person that you ought to get up your first stamp of approval from is God. All right. You also have to love yourself, right? Know that you are valuable, right? You also must have mental and spiritual freedom. I certainly believe in those internal factors because it really affects our output in life. It really affects how we even deal with situations and relationships and just various aspects of our life. So internally, we ought to be sound and stable. All right. For the external factors, I have things like, dwelling in your God ordained environment. A lot of times we want to be in places that doesn't serve us. We also want to be in places that's not where God had really had in his will for us to be in. So we find ourselves in atmosphere that is not pure, that is not positive. And so those are external factors that can hinder us. Having unhealthy relationships with family, unhealthy relationship with friends. Those things can bring forth traumatic experiences in our lives. And so I believe when we can, monitor and be very cautious on our external factors and making sure that we remove ourselves from toxic places, we can really be on our way to having our self-confidence levels up, because the external, whether you believe it or not, it's going to influence your internal and vice versa.
Yes. And I agree with that, because if you don't love yourself, you are never going to be confident. Right. Because you would always rely on that outside factor to give you validation. And if we're always relying on that outside factor to give us validation, we will always be searching for it someplace else. And you should love yourself, because you're going to spend the rest of your life with you. You might not spend the rest of your life with your children or your significant other because of whatever might happen, right? Death, divorce, you name it, but you are with you. And if you love yourself and you can have that be your biggest influence, along, as you said, with God, with whatever you believe in, I think it's so important, because that our health and wellness isn't just physical. It's right. Mental, it's emotional, right. It's spiritual. It's all these things wrapped in together. Yes. That then moves us forward. And that's a powerful force to move us forward.
Yes. Yes, it is. It really is.
So what would you say would be from a personal perspective, what was your biggest influence, but your biggest influence internally? I would say it was God and the love for yourself. Yes. But also externally, what was some of a hindrance that kind of externally knocks you off your feet from a confidence standpoint?
That's a very great question, Erica. That is actually two things. One having to do with the relationships, the right relationships, and also, as I mentioned earlier, being in your God ordained place. When we're out of it, when we're out of that environment, it can affect our self confidence, because in that environment, we'll be around people that doesn't serve us. We'll be around a situation that doesn't serve us, and so because of those things that I just mentioned, I can say that I was affected. And so it took the word of God to help me really get back on track and be like, hey, Angel, it's time to get it together now and move forward. Because sometimes you just got to talk to yourself too. Like, hey, life is not about being stuck one place, but it's about moving forward. And so that is what self-confidence will do. It will give you the courage to move forward.
Yes. And I love that, because sometimes you have to leave those relationships that you're in, friends, family, job environment, because those negative toxic relationships can affect your self-confidence and maybe not even realizing it. I mean, some of them are obvious. If you're, mentally, emotionally, physically being abused, your self-confidence and self-esteem is going to take a hit automatically. But moving out of those relationships that maybe are, I always say you're Debbie Downers, right? You're people who are constantly gossiping on other people about always negative, nothing's positive. It's always gloomy and dark. And, I always say Chicken Little, the sky is falling, right? Henny penny. And I think sometimes when we move past that, we can then start believing in ourselves, because you don't have those negative external forces pushing on you to be a certain way or think a certain way.
Yeah.
So
that is so true. That is so true, because your relationship and your environment is so important. And I feel like every time you get in something that is a negative, it messes with your thought process. It messes with, the way you even see things or you perceive things. And so it's really important for you to hang around people who get your answers versus people who get your problems.
Yes, absolutely. Very well said. Well, I know we're going to be coming up on a break, but you have a couple things going on right now. You've got a book coming out soon, right?
Yes.
So tell listeners about that.
Awesome. So I do have my the Young Prophets Manual that will be coming out in the latter part of April. You can actually purchase that from my website. It's www.shinebeautifully16.com. I am accepting pre-orders at this time, and I'm super excited. So all upcoming prophets, prophetic voices that wants to sharpen their ministry, that wants to learn more about the call of God upon their life, this is the book for you. We have got some learning to do, and we've got some work to do. So that is something that I'm really excited about that's on the horizon.
Wonderful. And now you have a giveaway for listeners. So lucky listener can email you.
Yes.
So, and you're giving away one of your God's Daughters t-shirts.
Yes.
And so why don't you put your email out there so that you can just include that you listened on Get Rooted Radio, and the first person that sends her an email will get sent this information and she'll contact you. So what email should that be?
Sure. It is shinebeinfo@gmail.com. Again, that's shinebeinfo@gmail.com. So feel free to go ahead and email me your size, and I will definitely, as well as your name and address, so that way I can get the shirt over to you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And people can find you out on Facebook and Instagram, correct?
Yes, they can.
And that's at the Shine Beautifully 16?
Yes, correct. So it's my Instagram is shine beautifully _16, and Facebook is Shine Beautifully. Also, you can search Angel Henry, and you'll definitely find me on Facebook under my my personal profile as well.
Wonderful. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about enablers of self-confidence. So you are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com. You can listen to the replay, download previous episodes, and get news and information on upcoming coaching sessions. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Angel Henry. Angel, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Erica. It's always a pleasure and a privilege.
So last segments, we talked about what is self-confidence, why is it important, and then internal and external factors of self-confidence. Is there anything you wanted to add to those last segments?
Oh, sure. One thing that I would say to listeners is, it is really important. Self-confidence is really important because you'll have the mindset that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. All right. The opposite of that you'll say is that I don't have the courage to do it and succeed. And that literally equals stress. And that means that you are low on self-confidence. So today, if you take nothing else from this broadcast, think that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And that's Philippians 4:13.
Wonderful. Thank you. What we want to get into now are enablers of low self-confidence because they're out there. Yes. And what are some of these enablers? I mean, we all know that there's people, right? But what else is out there?
Yes. Erica, when I think about enablers of low self-confidence, I think of fear and rejection and pride. For example, let's take a look at we'll take a look at the sting of rejection and the fear that causes it. All right. For example, fear can literally cause us or prevent us from achieving great heights of success, by really distorting the reality or being grounded in false belief. Like you're thinking of something, like you're something else when you're actually this particular thing. So you're thinking like you're B instead of really knowing and understanding and believing that you're A, right? And also when one can rest in the peace and perfect love of God, the spirit of fear can literally be overturned. And so that's like me telling you like, hey, you have this enabler to low self-confidence, but this is how we can reverse it, right? Knowing that the spirit of fear can literally be overturned when you have the peace and the perfect love of God on the inside of you, like literally knowing and understanding this. And also, fear is such a crippling emotion. It affects our forward movement in life. Fear also breeds anxiety, stress, self-doubt, and limitation over your life. All this stuff happens and it contributes or enables low self-confidence. All right. As it pertains to rejection, it's really the act of throwing something away or casting it away or forsaking it. Rejection has to do when you're not receiving the love and the acceptance from the very people that you love. And when that happens to you, you find yourself in a place where you're not confident in you because, hey, I really wanted Uncle so-and-so to love me, or I really wanted Auntie so-and-so to love me, but they're not showing me this love. They're not giving me the love that I really believe that I deserve as family. And so that when that happens to you, you suffer rejection and it affects your self-confidence. But today, I want you to know that you don't have to live a life of running low on self-confidence. It is now time for you to boost your self-confidence. Okay. And so I guess we'll probably get into that a little bit more, but over to you.
Yeah. So, and I think that's really, and we are going to definitely get into that next segment on how do we boost our self-confidence. But, and I think you made a really interesting point. It's, we said it earlier, right? Self-love, self-worth, boosting that self-esteem. And it's those enablers are that limiting beliefs, that negative self-talk, those things that are in your ear saying you're not good, you're not worthy. And when those enablers start getting in, And sometimes it's not other people. Sometimes it's ourselves. We don't believe we're good enough, or we're not ready yet. And I think that can is a sign that your self-confidence is not up, because if we waited till we were ready to do anything, we'd all be sitting on the couch with a bag of potato chips, not doing anything. Yeah. And we need to get over that, right? We need to be afraid. We need to, because fear is a funny thing. Fear loves the unknown, because what happens is our brain says, well, here's all the things that could go wrong, because I'd rather think of something bad than not know what was going to happen. So my brain's going to tell me, yes, this is something that we need to do. Yes, this is something that it's going to happen. It's going to be a disaster. You're not going to get it. Therefore, it's going to paralyze us.
Yes.
And that's when we have to say, you punch fear in the face, right? Say, bleep you, fear, and go and do it anyways. Because as we do it, you might still fail, and that's okay. As long as you learn from that failure, you grow. And now you've gotten to a point where I've done it once, I can do it again. And I'm not starting from scratch. I'm starting from experience. And it is. And like I said earlier, I hate the saying, but I love the saying. Sometimes you do have to fake it till you make it. You've got to give yourself that false confidence until it's no longer false. It's just natural. Yeah. Or else my mom used to tell me, walk in like you're wearing a crown. You are a queen. Yes. You walk in like you're wearing a crown. And I said, well, why? She goes, because if you walk in with your head down, feet looking at the floor, you've just made yourself look like you're not confident. You act like you're wearing a crown. You put those shoulders back. You've got that chin up, and you walk in. And pretty soon people will be like, oh, who's she? Because you walked in with that confidence. And so I always love that. And I always remember that, because it was something that is true. If you walk into your room, averting your eyes, not looking at people, it gives that to the point where, oh, well, must be afraid. Oh, she's, not a confident person. And you could very well be. So, keep that shoulders back, your head up, and just go in and be afraid and do it anyways.
Of course. I love it. I do. Sometimes people, they're not okay with failing, but in order for you to succeed, you are going to fail, but do not allow your failure to hold you hostage, because your failure will literally be in your past. And when you leave the past in the past and live in the present, you are going to prepare yourself to live in the future and to enjoy the future. So you kind of have to give yourself room to grow. Everyone makes mistakes. No one is perfect. And self-confidence is going to tell you you're not perfect, but you will get it anyhow.
Yeah. And I think one thing, listeners, you can also, and should wait to the next segment to say that, but by gaining confidence, right, you can learn to be assertive, right? And I know people have a problem between assertive and aggressive, but we'll talk about that next segment. But it is important, right? It's when somebody is aggressive towards you, that could be an enabler to low self-confidence, because you automatically shut down, and because you feel attacked, you start getting into that defensive mode. And same thing with fear, right? When the fear comes in, when that's the enabler of low self-confidence, is because you got that fight or flight, right? That whole, or freeze, fight, flight, or freeze. And you're afraid. So you don't know what to do. And now you're freezing. So, well, I'm just not going to do anything because I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Feeling overwhelmed is also an enabler. I'll make a nice statement. For me personally, when I don't know where to start, I sometimes don't start at all. And that's always something where I've been go after the low-hanging fruit, at least. Yes, you don't know where to start, but then just pick up that one corner of the room. Then you can go to the next corner. Just do one thing, even if you don't know where to start. If you do one thing, you've at least started. Yeah. And that can help boost that self-confidence.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So do you have any examples that from either yourself or clients that you've been able to have them reduce that limiting beliefs or that negative self-talk so that they can get rid of those enablers of low self-confidence?
Yes, of course. I I've coached a lot of, different people, and something that is most common amongst most people that I've dealt with is fear and rejection. And
Mhm.
so a lot of times it has to do also with relationships, not being accepted or not being treated with value. When that happens, it messes with their self-confidence. People become feeling insecure, that I'm not feeling worthy. They're not feeling like, hey, I am I am who I should know that I am, right? I'm special, I'm important. I normally tell them, so listen, you are a very important person. The word of God says you're one of his prized possession. That means you're very special. So you have to live life believing this, because somebody else might not tell you this if they especially want to abuse you, reject you, or take advantage of you. And so it's very critical that you know who you are according to the word of God. So yes, to your question, I've seen many of those situations, and even in my own past, dealing with rejection, dealing with fear. Sometimes you don't know what the outcome of something will be, and so you feel if you get into it, it's like this big old risk. What if something bad really happens? That's fear, because you don't want to get into it because you don't know the outcome. And then you might be fearful of rejection. A lot of times that used to happen to me. I don't want people to reject me, and so I had to be very careful in how I approach relationships because of that. But as time progressed and I really understood who I am according to the word of God, I began to see things differently and deal with things from a different perspective.
And I love that. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to end today's show with tips to overcoming low self-confidence and how to boost our self-confidence. This is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay, download previous episodes, come in for motivational words of encouragement, and tips on upcoming coaching sessions. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Angel Henry. Angel, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Erica. It's a pleasure.
So tell folks how they can get in touch with you to learn about your services, where they can pre-order this upcoming book that you have coming up.
Sure. Hi, everybody. You can reach me at www.shinebeautifully16.com. That's my website. You can email me at shinebeinfo@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram at shinebeautifully_16 and Facebook at shinebeautifully.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So please go out there, check out her book, get that pre-order in, check out everything that Angel has to offer. So we've been talking about self-confidence and you. We've talked about why it's important, what it is, of course, why is it important, the external and internal factors that come into self-confidence, the enablers of low self-confidence. But now let's talk about how do we overcome low self-confidence and really boost our self-confidence.
Awesome. All right. Listen, I love this particular segment because I love to see people live a life that is a life of freedom. Like you're walking in freedom, you're walking as an overcomer of the past. I love to see people let the past be the past. And so when we talk about how to overcome low self-confidence, I get excited, right? So I have some things that you can do and some things that you don't want to do that will cause you to either prolong having low self-confidence or help you boost your self-confidence. So some of the do's will be like, acknowledge that you lack self-confidence. As long as you realize, like, hey, I don't have this thing, or I'm low on it, you need to acknowledge that you lack it, right? Acknowledge life traumas that brought you to this place, because there would have had to be something that happened in your life, some trauma that happened in your life that brought you to this place. And you definitely want to acknowledge it, Be intentional about seeking help from the past traumas. A lot of times people don't do good by themselves when they sit in the place of accepting the traumas and not seeking help to get past it. All right. They live and dwell on it, and that's not going to help you move forward. Some other things is like, consciously use past failures to help you get better. Right? Don't beat up on yourself because you failed in the past, but use it to get better. Free yourself from unhealthy relationships, environments, and atmosphere. You also want to think positive. You want to confess positive things over your life, and also accept positive things over your life. Pursue inner peace, healing, and wholeness. Those three things are super, super important. All right. And some things I want to shift over, because I know we're running on time. Some things that you do not want to do, because this is going to cause you to live in low self-confidence. Like, it's going to cause you not to be able to move forward and get to your destined place. And so it's so critical that you do not cover up your trauma. You also don't believe that you're perfect, because no one is ever perfect. Like, there was only one perfect person that walked earth. So I just want you to make sure that you don't treat yourself like, hey, I am so perfect, I have to do this thing the way everybody else says I'm supposed to do it. No, that is not going to help you develop the self-confidence that you need to as a person. 100. All right. You also don't want to hold yourself to unrealistic expectations and standards, because sometimes you may find yourself not living up to it. Right. You may find yourself also not meeting those expectations, even if you've allowed other people to set them for you. Like, I've seen people allow other people to set it for them. And so you cannot hold yourself to unrealistic expectation and standards. Also, two other thing is, don't live as if, life is free of problems, pain, and difficulty, right? Self-confidence says that I can cope with these things. That's self-confidence, right? But the moment you're thinking that life, I shouldn't have no pain, I shouldn't have problems, like, you're in a totally different planet, because we are going to have issues in life. We're going to have problems. We're going to have difficulties. But being able to cope with these things is what will cause you to maneuver life and to do it in a courageous way, building your self-confidence. Okay. And also, do not accept limitations that is placed over your life by people and even yourself. Because sometimes we allow things that people say about us and to us to limit us, and we also limit ourselves. And so I want to encourage you on today, if you just follow these do's and these don'ts, actually, it's going to help you to get better and improve your self-confidence and move away from low self-confidence.
And I love that. I love do's and don'ts, because sometimes we can do all the do's, right?
Yes.
We do, but we're still doing the don'ts. We're not, and that becomes, problematic, because we are still maybe comparing ourselves to others. And I've said this many times before, but comparison is the thief of joy. Oh, yes. Stop comparing yourself. You're not, stop belittling yourself. Yes. It's that negative self-talk. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty as her. I'm not as talented. I don't have many years of experience. All those little things, those are excuses that you make up in your mind. So I love the do's and don'ts, and remembering to do the do's and don't the don'ts, right?
Yes.
Well, and I think it is, and it's about learning to be assertive, learning to sit with yourself for a while, learn your values, learn what your beliefs are, and then go out and work on these things that is going to improve your self-esteem. Because once you improve your self-esteem, then you start getting that self-worth, you start getting that self-love, and then that self-confidence comes so much easier. So they're steps, and it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
These take time. They come right. You got to complete the cycle, and you might fall backwards. I mean, I always say it's kind of like grief. You might go from stage to stage to stage, and you might repeat some stages, and that's okay. And that's when you just get better. And then you start learning it's second nature on, I just found myself doing this. All right, let me get back into my positive affirmations. Let me get back onto looking at my positive aspects, because you said it, we're not perfect at everything. We're perfectly imperfect. And and that's how God made us. So embrace it.
Yes.
Yes. So, Angela, I want to thank you so much for being on the show with us, with me today. This has been wonderful. Again, you download the podcast, folks. You want to hear it. If you want to reach out to Angela, again, how can folks contact you?
Sure. You can reach me on Instagram at shinebeautifully_16, on Facebook at Shine Beautifully. Also, www.shinebeautifully16.com. That is my website. You can send me a message through there. You can subscribe to the website. You can treat yourself on the website. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you all.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any of today's episode or want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com and join us the first and third Monday of every month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Have an amazing day. And I look forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you've missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.